Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Sarah. I'm with Scandinavian Photo, and I'm right now standing in our Stockholm store. We are so excited to be partnering with Canon to bring you these Canon Pro Weeks, and this is a great kickoff to that, where we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into the settings and things of the R3 by talking with Richard Walch, who is a professional photographer, professional sports photographer, even better. So we are excited to have him here. And again, he'll just be taking questions as well, which we'll be taking during the webinar as well as after. So we're really excited to have him here and again to be partnering. Just want to take a minute just to share about who we are at Scandinavian Photo. We here love creativity, and we have all the products and solutions you need to be able to bring your creative ideas and creative dreams into reality. So that could be if you want to visit one of our stores. Like I said, we're here in Stockholm, but we also have stores in Oslo in Norway, Copenhagen in Denmark, and then also Malmö and Borås in Sweden as well. So you're more than welcome to come in and visit us, but you can also visit our website and you'll be able to see products and things that you need there. But if you want to talk to somebody individually, you can email us, info@scandinavianphoto.se if you're in Sweden, .no if you're in Norway, and .dk if you're in Denmark. You can also contact us via telephone. So you'll see that number on our website. So make sure to check it out, www.scandinavianphoto.se. Again, if you're in Norway, .no or .dk. But without further ado, I think I just want to mention real quick about these Pro Weeks so that you guys know what's going on. I did say this is the kickoff, and we're going to have this week and next week where we are going to be having some events with photographers, Canon ambassadors like Richard Walch, as well as other photographers talking about cameras, but then also talking about print. If you find yourself in the Stockholm area, you're more than welcome to come in and visit us here for these events. All these details can be found on our website. So make sure to not miss any other webinars that come up, because I'm sure they're going to be great. I'm definitely looking forward even just to hearing what Richard Walch has to share with us today. So without further ado, I think I'm ready to invite Richard Walch. Richard, are you there?
Yes, Sarah, here I am.
Wonderful. Well, then I'll turn it over to you, and welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for the great welcome and for the opportunity to kick off the Canon Pro Photo Week at Scandinavian Photo. I used to have the pleasure in the past to be in the stores and check them out. And what I really love is that you have these great touch and try areas, and you can basically take a look and have a feel for everything you're interested in. That's really cool and unique about your store. So there's exciting news. I mean, I guess you guys have heard about this camera, but before we start, let me introduce who is sharing the next 45 minutes with you. Here we go. Now you should see a presentation. Sarah mentioned it. My name is Richard Walch, or in short form, Ricardo, as we just found out. I'm a Canon ambassador and a sports photographer, and I've been doing this all my life, and that's a good thing. You know, I started really young when I was 16. I'm a little older now, but I'm still in the game, and I still love it. And here you see me in the middle of the water trying to get the shot, and this is exactly, you know, where I want to be, to take some pictures, have some great experience, firsthand experience, and share them with you today. Yeah, I have the beauty in my hand. That is the Canon EOS R3, and boy, we all have been waiting for this camera, because, you know, this is the reason why probably a lot of the, you know, hardcore DSLR fans have a real reason now to switch to mirrorless. And I will explain you in the course of the next 45 minutes why it's the right moment to switch over into the mirrorless game. So, you know, it's not so easy to test these cameras because they're so incredibly powerful. And I was thinking a lot what to do.
Und in St. Moritz im Engadin, zum Engadin Wind, einen Wassersport-Contest. Hier geht es um Surfen, hier geht es um Foilen, hier geht es um Geschwindigkeit. Das ist der perfekte Event, um die neue Kamera von Canon zu testen, die EOS R3.
Okay, don't be afraid. That was the only German that pops up. But it's the only way I have this video. But it's a good start to tell you what's going on, because, you know, This EOS R3 is all about extremes, in terms of the performance and what it can do. So you need to find a sport that justifies that speed that this camera can handle. And a really unique and new upcoming sport is foiling. And what is foiling? Here you see Alina Corneli, she stands there with her board. So it's like a kind of like a surfboard. That's, you all guys know, you use it for windsurfing or for kite surfing or for all these kind of sports. But what's unique now is this wing, this metal piece that looks like an airplane wing that's mounted underneath the board. And what's happened is, as soon as these athletes pick up a little bit of speed, the board rises out of the water and it just flies with incredible speed over the water. So a perfect test scenario for this camera. You cannot do it alone. You need some great athletes. And let me introduce you the team that I had for this incredible photo shoot. Please meet Balz Müller. He's from Switzerland. He's the surf ambassador for Engadin. His speciality is wing foiling. Then you have Sarah Wenkes. She's an IQ foil surfing competitor, as well as her friend Theresa Steinlein. And this IQ foil surfing is the next Olympic surf discipline. All these athletes came to St. Moritz in Switzerland, to the lakes there for the IQ Foil Surf World Championship and a big surfing festival. So I took this opportunity to travel there, talk to these athletes and invite them for the day after for my private personal shoot to take EOS R3 to the extremes. And this is what I'm talking about. You see how, she has some speed. So the board rises out of the water and she flies by. It's kind of like the Formula One on the water. It's also very picturesque because suddenly the board is lifted up and it looks really nice for photography. So perfect test scenario. What was in my bag? You see EOS R3 in the middle. As always, there's no time for testing. So I take it out of the box in my hand, play with the settings the night before, and I go straight in there. And to be honest, this time I really went all in. So I used as many of the new automatic features I could do to really test it and find out what's in the bag for me. I had also an exquisite set of lenses with me. Let's start on the left. It's the 20-70 2.0. It's actually the lens I'm using right now to record this video for you. It's a 70-200 2.8. It's a 100-500. It's 15-35 wide angle. It's a 11-24, and the experts will see it's an EF lens with an RF mount adapter. And then on the top right corner, the Canon 800 RF f11. Very special lens, but we talk about that a little later. And then two of the new powerful flashes, some SanDisk Extreme cards to get all this data saved, a radio to talk to the riders, and an extra battery. Okay, I told you we're in St. Moritz and we drove a little up the hill on the border to Switzerland to Lake Bianco. And the idea was to combine the world of surfing with these glaciers and mountain environment. And this is one of the highlight shots of this shoot already. This is Balz, he's very incredible because he can just put the action down on the spot to give you as a photographer a really great shot. What did I use for this image? Of course, I used EOS R3. I used the 11-24 because I was very low on the water or in the water to really get this angle up to help him to look even bigger. You can see the rider is kind of up in the air, not in front of the mountains or anything. So it really looks spectacular. And I have brought two friends who photographed the behind the scenes, the making of, so I can show you and give you a better idea how this works. Here you see me. It's actually the moment before. There I was still on land with 15-35, and it was not the right angle. So then I put on a neoprene and jumped in the water and took the 11-24 to get even closer and a better angle for the shot. Yeah. What is the first and the most striking feature of EOS R3? It's the frame rate. It's 30 frames per second. Oh my God, that is exciting. You know, when I started with film, one of the highlight cameras was an EOS RS. Some of you maybe have heard about this camera. It had a translucent mirror, so it was able to shoot 10 frames per second on slide film. And back in the day, that was enormous. Now, you know, the camera I also have in my bag is an EOS R5, as you know, 20 frames per second, already incredible. And now they topped it even harder with 30 frames per second. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And if you shoot something like this here, where you have two athletes up in the air, and, you know, I also want this moment where Balz is doing the grab on the board, every extra frame per second helps you to get the shot. You know, basically, it just means your production safety becomes even bigger, because your athletes don't have to do the trick so often. Because of all the choice of images you have, you get the shot much quicker, which is a bonus for yourself and also a bonus for the athletes, because they love you when they don't have to do the trick over and over again. Here from a little higher perspective, so you get the idea of what's going on. Pretty interesting. You see, I'm not looking through the viewfinder. That's because I want to go as low as possible to the water. Now, what's also new about EOS R3, it has a flip screen. You know, for the lower end camera, that's no rocket science. That's what they all have. But for the high-end professional bodies, it's the first one that offers you a flip screen, so you can do these crazy angles without getting too dirty or too wet. Yeah, actually, that's a good moment also to encourage you guys to fire up some questions. So if you want to know something about the camera, I mean, the specs you can look up on the webpage, but if you want firsthand real experience, what difference it make and why I use it and how I use it, then please fire a question, and then Sarah will come in and fire it back towards me, and then we can have a little more of a dialogue, which I think is a nice thing. Yeah. Just a little fun fact here. Of course, I'm wearing a yellow jacket for the Swedish flag. that's especially for you. And so, you know, I'm like a landscaper standing out of the shot. Okay, when do you need such a speed? I mean, I shoot a lot in the snow and in the water, and both disciplines are, you know, they're extremely powerful, because the snow and the water travel so quickly that this high frame rate is fantastic. And here you see me kneeling on the rock, and he's doing a slide by. And of course, I want this moment where the water rises up but doesn't hit his face. Again, an example what 30 frames per second can do for you. This is what happens the second after. You know, I know this from snowboarding. When somebody does a turn in front of you, of course, he throws all the snow at you. And since I'm using a wide angle, I'm definitely going to get hit. And here you see as well, the trick is that most of the water hits my back, so it doesn't hit the camera, but you see there's still water landing on the camera. But don't be afraid, because what's the beauty about the EOS R3? It's a family member of you know, the pro bodies like the 1DX Mark II or Mark III. If you're familiar with these cameras, they are sealed. So if water lands on the camera, it cannot jump into the camera and kill your electronics. It just sits there and does nothing, as long as you have a towel in handy and put the water off and away. You know, just to get this clear, you cannot dive with this camera, then you ruin it. So that's what you don't want to do. But if you get hit by rain or by splash, it's not a problem. And that's the difference between an EOS R3 and an EOS R5 and R6. R5 and R6 are also very powerful and durable, but R3 is just a different league, because it's a body that's sealed much more and better. Sarah, how are you doing? Is there the first question? No, I don't think so. Okay, then we'll just wait for Sarah to come back, and then I'll just explain you more. Okay, I talked about this a lot, and I'm stressing this a lot that I want this low angle, but I want to show you also in an image why it makes such a big difference. You know, that's what I do in every sailing photo shoot. I try to kneel down on the boat, or I try to swim in the water, or just to get this low angle over the water. And if you look at this shot, here I was standing. Nice picture, but not the same as this one. Check it out. It just looks like you're creeping over the water, and you know this of course then the foreground becomes blur, and it just gives this picture a special kick, and I really like that. And I want to encourage you, when you have a camera with a flip screen, go in the extremes, climb up somewhere, go low, and just try to make use of the screen and try to do some crazy angles. Actually, that is a good information, and something I would like to encourage you. You know, when you buy such a powerful product, that you really challenge yourself and try, what can I shoot today with this camera that I could not have shot before? Give yourself a mission and to really challenge this camera, because what you do is you're going to challenge yourself, and then suddenly you come around with pictures that you've not shot like this before, and that is exactly the reason why it makes sense to buy such a camera. If you just do business as usual and just create more photos, it's not going to help anybody, instead of hard drive manufacturers, because you create all this data, and if you have a post producer, she or he is going to hate you. So please, you know, find a different approach and try to do something that you could not have done before. Yeah, here you see the camera again. Something that's new for Canon is this little rubber piece that you can put on the camera to protect the flash port. Really nice, because especially, you know, for me, I shoot a little bit or quite often on the ocean, and then actually the flash port becomes rusty because of all the salt water. So this really helps me a lot. If you look at this image, you see the viewfinder is quite big. And that is also, the viewfinder is the secret for me. If I shoot on the water and in the snow, mirrorless is definitely the way to go. Why is that? Because, you know, it's so bright on the water and in the snow that I have a really, really hard time to judge my image on the back of the screen. Of course, the new screens are even better than the old screens, but it's just so incredible bright that there's no chance to really judge the image. So that's why I use, I'm so happy about the mirrorless technology, because of course you can look at the image on the back of the camera on the screen, but you can also display the image inside the viewfinders. I mean, those of you who have used a mirrorless camera, for you guys, is of course is business as usual. But if you're thinking about switching over from a DSLR, this is something that is a game changer. So I'm just standing there in the middle of the day, looking at my photo. Okay, this is correct, all I need, and I keep on producing, and I'm just safe, calm, a really good feeling. So actually, that's it. That was for me the reason, the main reason to change to mirrorless. Before we talk about the autofocus, one more general view about mirrorless cameras and about what's going to happen. I mean, you know, with the EOS R a couple of years ago, Canon introduced the RF mount. The main significant difference between the EF mount and the RF mount is that there's more communication points between the lens and the camera. So there's a lot more information being exchanged between the lens and the camera. And also the sensor is closer towards the bayonet, the German word, the bayonet. And that's why they can make lens constructions that have not been possible before, especially in the wide angle area. So a 28-70 2.0 basically as an EF lens would have not exist, or also a 50 or 85 1.2. These are just examples of where they can push the envelope a little further because of the mirrorless technology. But there's something else that is pretty exciting about the EOS R3, and that has to do with the letter 3. Because if you're in the game for a little longer, or you like to look at old catalogs from Canon, you know about a camera that's called EOS 3. And the EOS 3 was a camera shot from film, and it had an eye detection or an eye control autofocus. And you know what? The engineers in Japan, they brought it back. And it's really cool. You know, I had the pleasure to go to Tokyo and meet those engineers. It's really funny. They have like a dress code. They have like a uniform that they're all wearing. So I was in this room with 40 of the engineers, and they asked me about the cameras, what I think works good and what I think where they could improve. And it was really, really an interesting dialogue. And I learned a lot about these technical minds and how they think and how they act. And they're pure focus on technology. So they need us as photographers to tell them if this is interesting for us or not, because they can tweak a product in any direction. They want to know what is the best for you and me as a photographer. So what about this eye control autofocus? Is that worth all the rings and bells, or do I don't need it? To tell you, I think it's incredible. It works, and it especially works for certain situations. You know, with the EOS R3, Canon is listening, and is also sometimes bringing something back that people were missing. For example, the joystick. The joystick was not there on the EOS R. Then there were a lot of complaints. Canon listened and brought the joystick back. So now you have several options to control the autofocus point. You can use the joystick to do so. You can also use the new button that has a sensor similar to the touchscreen of an iPhone or of a telephone. And that works incredible fast and also incredible good. But the complete newest invention is the eye control. So this is a picture where I can explain you that it makes a lot of sense. I wanted to shoot the surfers surfing alongside the lake, and then the red train, it's the famous Switzerland train, coming by. So I made my frame, waited for the train to come in, and then I knew the surfers would come in the lower right corner. And of course, I want to focus on these surfers. So all I was doing, waiting with my frame until they pop into the frame, and then all I needed to do, look down to the right corner. The autofocus would know I want this surfer now to be sharp and not the train, because both subjects are moving. So it could be difficult for the camera to understand where is my priority. And it was just a very calm feeling in photography, because I knew I can guide the camera and not the camera is guiding me or doing whatever I think it should do. You know how it is sometimes? You're like, this is great, but it's not really what I wanted. So you can really have several moving subjects in a frame and you decide where it should be sharp. I mean, to be honest, it's a little spooky, because you think about looking to the right corner and then you see a little yellow circle wandering down there, and you don't really understand in the beginning, is that you doing that or the camera or what, you know, what's going on? So again, it's a brand new technology. What you have to do is you really have to connect your eye with the camera. So it's a process you have to do over and over in vertical and in landscape and horizontal, so that the camera understands how is your eye. You see, I'm wearing glasses. It definitely works better without the glasses, but I could get it to work with glasses. It's something that you need to try out for yourself. You know, when the folks at Scandinavian Photo get the camera in the store and they have all these great test facilities, jump in, take the camera, put settings in on eye control IF and just try it out for yourself if you think that there's something that could be interesting for you. But again, it's just like a big buffet that got a little larger. You can choose the autofocus method, whatever you like the best. And to tell you the truth, that I don't have a favorite. Whenever I go into a shooting scenario, I decide what is the best autofocus setting for this scenario, and then I choose this, and also train the situation over and over. When I have to wait for an athlete, I just train, you know, the angle and where he comes in and how I'm going to use the autofocus and all of that. What's also really interesting is the subject tracking. You could put the camera in a setting where as soon as something is moving, is coming in and it's tracked by the camera, then the camera takes over the automatic and it follows the subject all the way through your frame. That's also something that works really, really good for me in this surfing photo shoot. A lot of movement, bigger objects moving towards me. So that was really, really great. Here you see another wide angle image of Bas doing a power turn in front of me with a little bit Hawaiian hang loose. You know, always some fun is good to have on the shoot. And you might ask yourself, why can he be so close to this crazy action going on? And is he nuts? Because, you know, if this wing is hitting him, then he will not leave the water. You are right in everything you're thinking. And I have wearing a helmet to protect me a little bit, but the secret really is that I was able to work with some of the world's best athletes, and there's a very quick connection between me as a photographer and them as an athlete. I have a lot of trust in what they're doing, and I just to ask them, so okay, where are you comfortable for me to sit? And then that's where I'm going to sit, and I don't move, because I know that most of the times, you know, they know really exactly what you're doing. It's also a little bit of a stomach feeling, you know, how much you trust this athlete. And what I can recommend you is just, you know, watch the sport over and over, and in pictures or on social media or videos, that you understand what you're shooting and what you're getting into. Yeah, here you see protection first. You know, a helmet hurts nobody. Okay, a new try. Sarah, are you still there? Is there any question you have for me?
Yes, I'm here. We do have one question. It's not really saying, it's from Michael, and he's asking us, would you recommend a dual R3 setup or an R3 and R5 combo if you're a generic photographer kind of doing weddings, portraits, and sports? What do you think?
Yeah, I think then definitely an R5, R3 setup is the best. What is the pros and the cons? I mean, if you have two identical cameras and you have situations that are really, really fast, you're just better off because you can operate them blind. But you know, there is a downside to the speed, and that is the resolution. The camera has a resolution of 24.1 megapixel, which is enough for, I'd say, you know, 80% of my work, it's enough. Only if I dive into advertising, then the client might come and say, I want it bigger. I would like to have 50 or 40 or whatever megapixels. So I can also tell you a little bit why a camera designed this camera with 24 megapixels. This is a camera where they had in mind the hardcore sports photographer that go to major sports events like Olympic Games, track and field world championships, soccer, you know. And these are the agencies, you know, their biggest goal is to get great images and move them fast. A colleague of mine in the ambassador program, you know, he told about his workflow when he goes to the football stadium, and they need to be able, like 5 minutes in the game, to get the first incredible shot. And once he's taking the picture until it is on the newsrooms globally on the picture desk is something around 20 to 30 seconds. So it's crazy. Sometimes, you know, they have wired an image about a goal, and then the referee has decided that it wasn't a goal and they have to pull it back. It's just to give you an idea how quick they move pictures around. And if you have to move files with 50 megapixels, it's just a nightmare for everybody, because especially in the news business, in the newspaper business, they hardly ever print bigger than a double page A3. And that's something you can do easily with 24 megapixels. You can even crop and it's still enough. So, you know, with all this hype about megapixels, you really have to sit down, look in the mirror and say, what do I really need? And what's my major need? If it's just, you know, every fourth Sunday you need these high megapixels, you can also get 2 R3 and then just rent an R5 when it's really needed. That's also an option. Always have renting in your mind, because it could be a solution for you. If you say, hey, Richard, I'm just doing both, I have both, you know, client sides, then you need to get both cameras. And you can customize them really a lot. I mean, that's the beauty about the Canon cameras, that almost every button you find you can customize. So you can get them quite similar, which is really a good thing. Also, I don't know if you know it, but you can put the settings of your camera on an SD card and then copy it to between different cameras. So for example, all your copyrights and stuff like that, or your custom settings. It's also a way to really quickly customize your cameras before you go into a next shoot. I hope that answered the questions.
Perfect. Are you ready? Can we do one more question? We have a couple questions coming in.
Yeah,
And
Sarah,
for
bring it
those
on.
that are perfect. And for those of you that are asking questions, we are going to be doing a little Q&A at the end as well. So even if we don't get it right now, we have you, we're keeping track. So we'll make sure to get to you. But let's do, Anders has a question. He says that he shoots loads of windsurfing and sail racing. That's fun. Drops of water have ruined many pictures for him. How do you deal with water splash on your lens and at the same time make sure you don't miss any action?
Yeah, good question. Very relevant question. I mean, you know, this is more like in religion. You know, some people say they spit on the lens before they go in the water. Others use a special liquid to put on the water. I don't do any of this. You know, especially when you're talking about salt water, the only thing that really helps you is not one of these fancy modern synthetical pieces of cotton. The only thing that really helps you is some pure leather, some Wildleder, we call it in Germany. It's a quite soft leather. And then you have to put quite some hard pressure on the splash to really get it off, because otherwise it's something like a little bit of a greasiness on your lens and nothing is sharp anymore. But how do you protect yourself from splashes? Well, there is, you know, always use a lens hood. The bigger the lens hood, the better. Use Aquatech rain protection for your camera and lens. It's also a really good protection if you have two bodies in a pelly case, for example, and they can hit each other. And then just really train a lot that you get the shot and turn the camera on, get the shot, turn the camera around. Or when it's raining, you know, shoot down. So it's like a physical game, but there's, you know, when water hits the lens, water hits the lens. Then the second camera is actually maybe what could help you, that you just drop the first camera, take the second one and keep on shooting. You guys are going to say, yeah, of course, Richard, you know, he has this hundreds of cameras. Yes and no, but you know, when I was shooting in the America's Cup in sailing in Valencia, it was actually really, really hectical, because you're not alone on the boat. It's a small boat and there's 4 or 5 photographers, and we all have these big lenses and big pelly cases, and there it was quite rough. So there was basically no time to change the lens. So either you had 2 or 3 cameras or you were just missing shots.
Perfect. I think that answered it really well. One last question is, Eileen, do you use any specific settings during your shoot, or when you do your shoot?
Yeah. It's quite funny, you know. What I found out when I was shooting slide film is that when you use a 100 ASA slide film, it's 500 of a second and f8, and that worked kind of all over the world. So it was manual exposure. Now with digital sensors, it's different, because first of all, you have to use much higher shutter speeds because of the resolution of the sensor. So I really ask you to say auf Wiedersehen with this old Regel, say goodbye to this old rule that the number of the lens is the minimum shutter speed you have to take. Forget it, it's double and triple. So if I shoot these surfers, I shoot him with, 3,000, 4,000 of a second. What's really different with these new cameras, whether that's an R6, an R5, or an EOS R3, is the low light capability of the sensors is incredible. It's much better than before. If you have a old camera and you shoot it at 800 of an ISO, you can shoot now these new cameras with 3200 ISO, and it kind of looks the same. So quick shutter speed, and then push up the ISO to what you need. Of course, keep it as low as possible, but if you need a little more juice, put it up in the ISO, and then it's no problem. You know, when in the snow, I shoot manual because, as you know, the camera always thinks what's in front of the camera is gray, middle gray, Mausgrau, you could say. But of course, it's not. If you shoot something black or white, exposure will be wrong. So when I shoot in the snow, I just shoot manual, because it's kind of like almost the whole day, it doesn't change. So once I've got it set up, I can go with it the whole day. If I shoot something like the picture you see here, where it's just, you know, a very mixed thing, I use TV. So I decide the shutter speed to get it correct and let the camera do the f-stop. And then what I do on the back of the wheel or on the lens control ring, I put a exposure compensation plus minus and sometimes tweak it a little bit up and down. That's also something that works really good for me.
Perfect. That's all the questions we have right now. So you can continue with your presentation.
All right. Good. We have 35 followers, so it's getting more. That seems like we think we're doing good here. Okay, Engadine Wind. I told you that there was this event, and an event is always something that's really good for you to shoot if you have access. You know, that's the most important. You know, I had good access because Christian Müller, who organizes this contest, you know, he's been in the game for many years, and I used to shoot his extreme sport ski contest, kind of like on the mountain that you see in the background to the right. A really cool event. I was sitting the whole day in a helicopter, open door, shooting extreme skiers coming down the mountain. I loved it. Okay, so I just called up Christian and said, Christian, hey, what up? I heard you have this event there. I want to come and hang out with you. And he's like, yeah, you know, I'm following you. I see all these things you do for Canon, and it's cool. And we're great. We're happy to have you here. And here's a pass and come on over. So I had a chance to go on the water and shoot on the water this racing. And that's where you want to be. Now, here comes the big lens. And if you look closely, you see it's even bigger than on the picture before, because what the engineers in Japan, what they did is they made this lens to be extended. So you turn it and then it grows. It's really magical. And I can see him sitting there in Tokyo and saying like, we have something real cool for you guys. Check this out. I have to tell you a fun story. You know, we as ambassadors, actually not so much right now, but before we used to come together once a year and sit down with these engineers, and we had round tables about cameras and about lenses, and then they ask us, well, what do you want? And then like my friend Thorsten Milse, he's a wildlife photographer. We are specialists, so we just think our problem is the biggest problem in the world, and we need a solution now, and the rest we don't care. So my friend Thorsten, he goes, you know, guys, you know, when you sit on an elephant and you shoot a tiger, there's no time to change the lens. So I want a telephoto lens that has a big range. Then the engineer was going like, I think I have something. And then, you know, he actually used a technology that comes from cinema lenses, and he put the teleconverter into this telephoto zoom lens. So that was the moment when the 200 to 400 with a 1.4 extender was born. And what's the end of the story? Thorsten Milse is happy because he can sit on the elephant. He shoots, you know, 560, the tiger comes closer, he goes minus 1.4, and then he can go to 400 and all the way down to 200. So you can get this job done. And kind of like the same mindset they used here. They say, you know, we love to sell you guys lenses for 12,000 euros, but we understand it's not really so easy for everybody to buy this big lens, and it's also quite heavy to bring it on the shoot. So why don't we make something crazy? And that is something crazy. What I'm holding in my hand here is an 800 millimeter f11. Okay, you might say, f11, Richard? Are you kidding? I'm not going to touch this. Okay, wrong. Because check this out. I mean, what the great advantage of this lens is comparably cheap. You know, it's still a lot of money. I think you spend around 1,000 to 1,500 euros, depending on whether you take the 600 or the 800. But compared to the 12,000, it is cheap. And it's very light. So if you sit on the boat, it's very easy to hold, because if you do a little turn, you know, with the 800, that means a lot on the other end. So it's really nice to work with it also when you work several hours on the water. And because what I explained to you about the ISO f11 is not a problem, then in a moment like this during the day, maybe you shoot 3,200, maybe you shoot 6,400 ISO, but the sensors can handle it and you still get a crispy and nice image. And what it means is that you're on a photo shoot and you suddenly have the option to pull your 800 and shoot with it. Because what this lens does, you can see here, you see it looks like these riders, these surfers are compressed in the image. It looks like they're kind of jumping towards you. And that's an effect you get from a mega telephoto lens. You know, it kind of starts at 400, they're quite close, but sometimes, you know, this is a race course. So of course I had access, but I cannot stand in the middle of the race course. So I have some distance, or when you're in a stadium, or when you are, you know, there's rules. But with the 800, you get away with a lot of rules and still getting close and have these nice blur background. And it looks like the athletes pop into your image. And that's what you can do with an 800mm lens. Okay, back to Balz. You know, he's a champ in several sports. Now you see him on a foiling windsurfer where he's doing some crazy tricks. And again, you know, it's a moment where these 30 frames per second and this incredible autofocus comes in handy. Because you know what the trick is? You look at these images and you go through your images, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 images in a row. And guess what? They're all sharp. It's actually kind of boring, to tell you the truth, because it just makes our job also in a way too easy. So, but if you're thinking if this is the right camera for you, if you shoot something like that where it's a lot of action and you just love it when every frame is sharp, this is what you need to get. You see, I'm smiling. And that was right on that day and on a moment where I found out this is something cool I have in my hand. Of course, I wish exactly this camera to have more megapixels, but that's not there yet. And there still needs a little bit of room for dreaming. Again, what's so beautiful about the sport is it's a monoclass, so they all have the same material, as you can see here. The only difference is some sponsors and the flags, but it also, you know, makes this really nice pictures because they're all the same. And you see, Denmark is doing good here on this picture. So greetings to Denmark. Again, here, you know, the autofocus locks on to the first sailor and then just follows him all the way around the buoy, around the turn. And you can just concentrate on your framing. Actually, that's, you know, that's the most important, that you concentrate on your story and on the framing. The rest is done by the camera. Let's jump to a completely different thing. You know, if you're a portrait photographer, maybe this camera is also something for you, because what I learned when I observe these leading guys, what they do today is they don't look through the camera anymore, because then there could be, yeah, but I don't feel the model anymore because of the mirrorless. Bullshit. What they do, they just hold the camera and they look with their eyes towards the model. They don't look through the camera. They just hold the camera in front of them. They touch on the back of the screen to make sure that the eye control focus is locked on the eye, and then they just let the automatic roll, and they just, you know, focus on the person and, you know, try to talk to them and give them an idea and an expression, and the camera is doing the rest. Pretty cool setup. For example, something like this that's where I use the EF control and I underexpose, because it's a lighting situation that the camera cannot understand, but I just want these highlights hitting these sails, and the rest I want quite dark because it makes it look more dramatic and more spectacular. Okay. This is a break. This was kind of like, in a nutshell, a lot of things I want to tell you about R3. Before we really hit the brakes here, let me just look at the specs one more time. We've not talked at all about video. Of course, you know, this is also a great video camera. If 6K is what you want, then this you can shoot with. Great connectivity with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. If that's something you need, you even have the, in the future, there's an app and you can connect your phone with a cable to the camera and just wire the pictures straight out of the camera wherever you are. Yeah, incredible viewfinder, incredible screen. You save the images on the CF Express cards, really powerful cards. I have one that goes up to 512 gigabytes. So you can kind of shoot the whole day, which is also comes in really handy. Yeah, I think that's it about this great camera. Again, if you're a sports guy or a sports girl, this is your thing. It's also worth to mention that this camera is 1/3 lighter than a 1DX Mark II or Mark III. So it's a little easier in your hands. It's also a little smaller. So if you have smaller hands, it's easier for you to grab and to maneuver. Could be also interesting for you maybe for the ladies, but I have to tell you, it's not just the ladies. I'm also happy that it's not so heavy, and my back is just loving it. So, Sarah, back to you. Fire on some more questions before we go to chapter 2.
Perfect. I don't have a lot of questions. So if you have a question, now is the time to ask. You guys can chat up, or you can make it in the Q&A section as well. We had a question from Håkan, but I believe we answered it with the RF 800, what you thought of that. And I think you gave your answer there. Håkan, if there's something else that you want to add or something more specific, feel free to ask another question. We also have Marcus here. He's asking, what is your opinion on the lens extenders? Do you prefer extender or cropping in post?
Yeah, I mean, to get it right in the first place is always my motto. You know, whether that's in lighting or whether it's in composition or also in the cropping, is get it right in the first place. You know, it's a better quality, it saves you time in post, and it's just the real thing. So again, if you want to spend the money, then a teleconverter is a really nice thing to use. Be aware that the 7200 2.8, it's such a compact and small lens that there's basically no space for a teleconverter. So there you cannot use a 1.4 or 2.0, but on the 100 to 500, of course, you could put a 1.4 converter, something that works. Okay, then at the end, your f-stop is going to go really low, but it's something that definitely works and makes sense. I don't know if it's too good to put on an f11 800 a teleconverter, because then you end up at, I don't know, 1200. So that's really crazy. It's going very extreme. I think there it's better with these lenses to stay solo on the pure 600 or on the pure 800. But you know, also just looking a little bit back in the days of film, teleconverters, they were just shit. You know, they were just not good. And now in digital, with the teleconverters, version 2 and version 3 in the EF world, they became really, really good. And now in the RF lenses, they're even better. So they are no problem to use. Also, maybe you're interested in how is it to put an EF lens on an RF mount. There I can also recommend you and tell you from my honest own experience, no problem at all. I mean, the EF lens will work exactly as you remember it working before. It's, you know, they speak the same language. When you used a converter or adapter, back in the day, it was always a problem because it was not from one manufacturer. It was something else in between. And did they get it right or not? I don't know. But now, you know, since it's a Canon lens, an RF lens, and the EF RF adapter, and what the good thing is, the camera can speak an EF protocol and an RF protocol. So it just understands which language it has to use to talk to the lens. And that's why they work exactly as you remember them putting in on an EOS 5, for example, or 1DX Mark III or Mark II. There's no difference. Well, you might ask, does it even make sense to buy RF lenses? Yes, of course it makes sense, because, you know, it's just the new generations. When Canon produces such a lens, they kind of make sure you can use it for the next 10 years. Who knows what megapixel will shooting in 10 years, but the lens is designed to be capable for a long time to do you something good. So what I would recommend you is, now's the time, jump to a mirrorless body, whether it's an R6, an R5, or an R3, that you have to decide what you're shooting, what your budget situation is, and what really you like. And then take the control ring adapter, because it gives you this new option of this controlling that you can totally customize and you know, have this extra function on your fingertips. And then slowly build up your lenses, because at the end of the day, in your equipment, the money is in the lenses. The camera is something you will swap, you know, quite, you know, sooner or later, but lens is something you can use for 10 years. So be smart with the choice of lenses and how you build your kit back. Okay, I think you guys have to step it up, that we see some more questions at their end, because that's Sarah's job and she's getting kind of bored if nobody is asking for some questions. And you can ask anything, you know, if you can ask whatever you want to know, if it's personal question or technical or a Canon, or, you know, then just spit it in there, and then we'll try to help you as good as I can. And when I sit down and designed this presentation for you today, I knew you guys would be hot on the R3 and all the topics, but maybe you also want to know a little bit about my experience. You know, how can you survive in this world as a professional photographer, especially in the hard times of the pandemic? It just got even harder. Basically, what do you need to do to maintain a career as a professional sports photographer, or how to grow into it? Now, you know, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. So I've been around, and you can see I'm still excited about what I'm doing. And I can try to give you some bullet points in a nutshell. You know, don't get me wrong, it's going to be quite black and white and simple that I'm trying to tell it to you, but just, you know, accept it as I say it, and maybe think a little bit about it, and then try it out for yourself, and then find out if that's what I'm telling you there is helpful for you or maybe not. So basically, keep a sharp profile. If someone looks for a sailing photographer, they want the best sailing photographer that they can afford in the world. They don't want somebody that can shoot sailing, horses, kids, weddings, and cars, because they just want sailing pictures. So, you know, you can tweak it around. You have to find something that you're famous for. And, you know, in my case, it's snow and water. It's skiing, snowboarding, and sailing, and that's it. Of course, I'm capable to shoot something else, but I don't put it in the foreground. I'm the extreme dude who can do skiing, snowboarding, and sailing, and that's what people know me for, and that's kind of my brand, and that's why they book me. So what is really important, you have to sit in front of the mirror and look in the mirror and say, hey, what am I famous for, and what do I want to become famous for? And it's something that you love, you're excited for, you have a lot of interest for. It's something where you're the insider. That's something that you can become famous for. Whatever that is, doesn't matter. That can be flowers, or that can be special creatures, or sports, or whatever, fashion, it doesn't matter. When the people call you up and talk to you about it, they have to feel that you are just the best one that they can call for this job. And that's also what you need to show on your webpage and on your social media, and so on and so on and so on. So keep a sharp profile. You can shoot something else, but don't show it. Make friends. You know, you have to be a nice guy, or you have to be a nice girl. It's basically, this is really, really important. We all shoot great images with these new cameras. It's just easier than ever before to shoot great images. So what's the difference? And one of the biggest difference should be that you're just, you know, people like you and they like to work with you, and never forget that. And you can, you know, and if I shoot with athletes, you can grow with these athletes. So pick them up, get connected when they're young and you're starting, and then help each other out and grow together. You know, they get better and better sponsors, and they maybe help you to work for these companies. So, you know, it's a give and take. It's a give and take. It's something you do together. And also, you know, like this guy, Sven Kühler, I've done some of the greatest adventures of my photo career together with him. And we have a lot of trust and respect for each other. And that's been going on for years. Yeah, but it's important that first time you meet somebody, you know, you're open-minded, you're stoked about what you're doing, you listen, you try to understand what they want, what you want, and then there's no barriers. Think big. You know, nobody cares about 200 of your best pictures. People want to see the 10 of your best pictures. So it makes no sense to try to do, you know, some sort of a photo production every week, so you have something to post. Yeah, that's maybe nice for Instagram, but if you want to stand out, you know, sit down, you know, take a piece of paper, scribble an idea, talk to friends, talk to athletes, talk to, you know, find imagination and inspiration somewhere off your sport. You know, if you shoot mountain biking, don't look at mountain biking, look at an art museum, look at a theater show, look at another sport. You know, try to find inspiration in other fields and then bring it back into your field. Like this photo shoot you see here, that we traveled to Carrara in Spain, and it was the launch campaign for the Profoto B1 Flash. And you know, we just said we want to turn this marble quarry into our studio, and we shot inside the mountain and outside the mountain, and you see it's just a very big setup, and these pictures, They're a couple of years old already, but they still stand out because back in the day, we're thinking big and working really hard, maybe for 3 months to pull this photo shoot off. So think big. Walk the extra mile. When you have an idea, most of the images, are created in your head. You have something that you want to do. And when you're not satisfied, then work harder to get that image, whatever it takes. Of course, you have to be smart and you have to stay safe. But in this case here, it meant that I need to upsile into the canyon. So my position was low enough that that the slackliner would stand up against the sky and not against the water. If you look at the image, it's obvious that's the way it should be. But it meant in this moment to upside down into the canyon, hang on a little cliff, and take the picture. And gosh, I was nervous going down there. And I was a little bit scared, but I overcome this fear because I wanted to get the shot. And when I got this picture, of course, you can see I was really, really happy about it. So walk the extra mile. That can also be that you have to travel to a location 2 or 3 times. You have to stand up real early. You have to stay up in the middle of the night. All these things is walk the extra mile because you just need this one epic shot to move on and develop yourself further. Stay creative. Never be happy with what you've done yesterday. Always try to reach a little bit further. If you're trying to jump 3 ladders at the same time, the chance for crashing is very high. But always step out of your comfort zone and also take a calculated risk. Here, this was actually the launch photo shoot for the EOS 1DX Mark III. And I took Andy, he's a surfer, and we went to Portugal for a surf camp. There you surf behind a boat. And I wanted to shoot this image with a flare, with this fire flare. And I thought we can buy these flares in Portugal in the harbor, but we didn't know that there's a big restriction on flares in Portugal because they've used in football games to make big damages. So you can only buy them if you're a boat holder. I'm not a boat holder. So we're there and we have 3 flares. 1 flare lasts for 30 seconds and that's it. So we really talked about this image, how it should be, gave Andy a good briefing and just went for it. And here's the shot. So stay creative and try out something new. Also, if it's a little difficult to achieve. Talk about your work. This is a picture from Photokina where I had the pleasure to present my work to the audience live on a stage on a wonderful big screen. Okay, that's AAA presentation, but share your passion. Talk about also talk about what went wrong. That it was just really hard and it was not so easy, but you pulled it off. Share the journey and share your passion. Of course, today it's the social media, and if you guys are able to have an audience for, I'd say, if you special interest for above 20, 30, 40,000 or above 100,000, you're the winner because you're kind of your own boss and you can do whatever you want. Then you've made it. Of course, it's always under the strict rules of social media, how it works. But no matter which channel you choose, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or a seminar but talk about your work, and it's going to help you to create a network, to get jobs, and just being good and nobody knowing about it is not going to help anybody. Yeah, try to work with the best. Try to work with people that are actually better than you or more crazy or more creative, and try to also bring something on the table that helps them, and you will grow with people that are bigger than you. Here, I'm on a photo shoot with my friend Danny Moily. This a crazy story. What you see here hanging under the helicopter is actually a camera and a darkroom in one. So he sits in this trailer, exposes the image straight to the photo paper, develops it in the container, and then walks out with an image that's finished, a print. Crazy technology. And then the idea was, why don't we fly this camera up to the mountaintop in St. Moritz and then shoot the landscape there? Crazy idea. But you see, a couple of months later, I'm standing on the mountain. Danny is in the helicopter. His camera is hanging underneath the helicopter and they're flying towards me. And I was lucky. The trailer spun, the sun hit the trailer, boom, I got the shot. What an incredible picture. Do crazy stuff, crazy stuff in terms of, have balls to try out something new. Here, this is what's called a super selfie. It's actually a fun fact, you know, when I was at the Scandinavia photo store and I was invited for my first presentation, this is the story I talked about. It was a photo shoot in Alaska with the legs of steel. And this is the highlight image of the shoot. You see me sitting in the helicopter with the open door. You can see that the door of the helicopter is open and something is hanging out. That's myself with my feet. And I'm photographing Sven, who's on the right corner, this little black dot doing a jump. And I had a second camera mounted on a ridge and with a pocket wizard, so remote control connected. And while I was shooting him from the helicopter down, the second camera was shooting him and me at the same time. You see, I mean, how crazy is that? I was not sure if the triggering would work with this great distance, if, you know, when the helicopter takes off, it doesn't tip off the tripod, whatever. But I just went for it and say, hey, if I get it, I get it. If not, I still have the first shot. So do crazy stuff, but do it with do it with brain, you know, don't put yourself in deadly danger for the shot. That's just stupid. But, you know, challenge yourself and challenge your people you work with safety aspect in mind, but do crazy shit. And of course, never give up. Never, ever give up. If something goes wrong, you come back, you try it out again. You know, my background is economics. I've studied economics. Nobody told me how to photograph. I learned it the hard way by making every mistake and just stand up and do it again. And you know, kind of like this boxer, look at him. He's just determined. He's like, this is Ali Begic. He's just like, dude, I'm going to get you and I'm going to get this right. And maybe it's not the first time, but on the second one, I'm going to get you. So this is the attitude you should bring on the set, that you're ready to whatever it takes, you're going to continue. And if you want to do it, you're going to do it. And no matter what people say or how difficult this is, you just go for it. And you know what the secret is? If people feel your passion for what you're doing and your determination, that's triggering. Then they will hire you, and then they will follow you, and then they will trust you. If you come in like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, forget it. So you have to be sure about what you want, and you have to really work for it. But you also have to be a nice guy or a nice girl. You know, don't have an attitude. You know, just be passionate about it, and that's this positive energy that gets you everywhere. It worked for me from day one, and it still works for me today. Sarah, back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Richard. That was awesome. I enjoyed those pointers. I've been trying to make notes too here for myself. So thank you so much. We do have 2 questions. I know that we are running a little bit over time. So thank you guys for the ones that are still with us and the ones that have asked the questions. We have 2 questions now. If somebody has a question, now's the time to ask, because we're going to wrap this up after these questions. But Anders has asked here, when I join in offshore races, I like to use flash to fill in shadows. What are your thoughts about flashes and action photography? Do you use them on or off camera? I think we saw some images with them, but if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love flashes. You know, I'm a big fan for strong and powerful flashes. When I do that, I always work with the pro photo flashes, you know, with the B1 or the B4, or like as powerful as I can get them, because then I can, you know, go away from my subject and give the flash the light from the side. As you can see, this picture here from Begovic is this, you know, it's a flashlight from the left and the right side. So it's like a wing light, right and left, straight on, nothing from the front. It's always the most boring if the light comes straight from the camera. So you don't want to put the flash gun on the camera. Now, Canon really stepped it up. The flash you saw at the beginning of the presentation is a really, really strong and powerful flash, and it has a big battery that you could put in. So the recycle time is a lot faster, and you can fire, for sports, you can fire a lot of flashes without you having to fizzle around with small AAA batteries. So there they really have learned the game. Then it's just what are you willing to carry on a shoot? You know, if you don't have a lot of space, you bring 2 of those Canon flashes, and then this extra remote control that you can put on your camera, so you control the flashes but don't have them attached to your camera. That's really important. And if you want more juice, then you step into the pro photos. And if you want as much juice as you can get, then you end up with the I think it's the R10 or something. It's a flash that can shoot 10 frames per second and has a burn rate of crazy 40 thousandths of a second. Then water turns into glass. But again, these flashes cost as much as a car. Don't buy them, rent them for the shoot, go crazy and give it back. But to answer your question, a flash gives you the opportunity to make the look of the image something unique that you normally don't see with your eye. So yes, flash in sports is something really, really cool.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Last question here. We have somebody that's attending. They said another question, what is the general tip on being at the right place at the right time, especially when it comes to photographing games like football or hockey? Where do you sometimes only get one chance? And how do you stand out from the other photographers at the same event?
Okay. I mean, it's again, it's access. And access is something that you have to arrange before you end up at the event. You have to apply on the webpage and you have to have a press pass or you have to have a letter from a magazine. They need to have a reason why they want you in first row. They don't want anybody. I mean, they want maybe 1 or 2 photographers in first row, but they don't want 20 or 30. So give them a reason why you are should have access to go behind the curtain and, kind of like if you shoot a concert, you want to be on the stage or you want to be, at least in front of the stage for the first 3 songs. And that's usually through the power of either you have such a strong social media account that people would say, this guy has reach or this girl has reach, we need him. Or you work with some good clients and magazines that will allow you to get first access. So that's the official way. Then there's an unofficial way. It's just be sneaky and just try to work your way through. I mean, I've been sneaky and I just have one rule. Once I got caught, I don't start a discussion. I'm just say, I'm sorry, of course, I respect it, and I go back. And then I try another way. And if I get caught again, I'm even more friendly and say, okay, I'm sorry you caught me. Now I just stop. You can always try, but don't start big arguments because the people who have to pull you back, it's not their decision. They're just there because they need to do their job. You can tweak it a little bit, but always be friendly.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Richard. And I think we're going to wrap it up now. I know we've gone over time, but thank you again, Richard. What an inspiration. Thank you for showing us some great shots and great opportunities that you've been with as a photographer in your career. Yeah. Again, really inspiring. So thank you so much for being a part of us.
One last little story, because it's just really a fun story. When the first event I had with Scandinavian Photo, I met my future wife. She was working for Canon, and she invited me to come and have a speech at Scandinavian Photo. That's the first time we met. And then kind of like the second or third time we met was the launch event for the Canon EOS Mark II. And today we're talking about EOS R3, which kind of kicks R2 out of the game, but there's a happy end. You see, I'm married by now. We have 2 kids, so there's a really nice story, but it's a good circle and wrap around to your store and to Scandinavia. She's from Denmark, by the way, and it's something worth mentioning today. So thanks to Canon, thanks to Scandinavian Photo, and thanks to Charlotte.
Hey, that's awesome. I don't know if we can promise that to everybody, but you guys are welcome to come visit our stores. Definitely. I'm not sure if we can say that you're going to get married, but definitely find photography and video equipment that you need. So again, thank you for the wonderful inspiration. Canon, thank you for hosting or partnering with us for this event. We don't have we are waiting on the R3 as a demo or a demonstration here in the store. So we are excited to have it in the store eventually. So just keep your eyes open for that. I'm sure we'll announce it when it actually is in the stores. But you are able to pre-order the camera if you're thinking, man, this is something that, like Richard said, you want to challenge yourself and challenge with the camera. Might be the camera for you, definitely with the 30 frames per second, the automatic eye focus, and all the other great features that this camera really has to offer. So make sure you can email, you can call in, or you can come into one of our stores and pre-order this camera. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It's an awesome product. I know that I got to hold it in one of our future event or past events when we first announced it, and it truly is. You feel it's a lot lighter. and it really is an amazing camera. I would love to try it out sometime as well. So, but again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for all your questions. Make sure to check out the other events that are happening with the Pro Weeks, and we'll see you around. Thank you so much. Thank you, Richard.
Dankeschön. Dankeschön. Ciao, Sarah. Bye-bye.